Hi, Dana.
Hello, Ben. Thank you so much for speaking with me.
No
This
worries.
was just an amazing series. And I love the fact that, we're exploring not only the beauty of space, but also what it takes to get there and the team of what it takes to get there. So I was wondering, what was the process like in terms of when you first got the project to what we now see where we're going to get it on October 6th? What was that journey kind of like?
Well, I've always been utterly obsessed by space. Being a filmmaker is definitely a second, if not third or fourth choice for me. And I've used whatever my documentary making to get myself into a position
Mhm.
to get close to the things I love. And NASA was really the dream for me. We've made a lot of sports documentaries, and I love sports too. But I felt that there's a format of the way those stories are told that could be applied to the stories of people going to space. And generally speaking, space documentaries are either very techy and science based, which I love, and or like telling the stories of like the Apollo missions or Challenger, or like historical stories, which I also love. But they don't do that thing of telling the story in the now, embedded with the team as they overcome the challenges. And that was our ambition for this show, and I think it works. I hope it does anyway.
It works very well. And so I was wondering, with that background of doing, say, sports documentaries, as you mentioned before, what did you learn that you didn't necessarily have before when you was dealing with the sports that you learned while you're dealing with now science documentaries?
Well, it's just there were so many things. There are things that are similar in
Mhm.
terms of it's a team coming together to overcome obstacles.
Right.
Um, what I learned is just it's almost impossible to sum up. I learned a lot about the science and the tech, which is fascinating. I learned a lot about people and the way they work together, and it really was a stunningly vast collaboration of people from different disciplines in different countries with different skill sets, collaborating to achieve the impossible. I mean, it's impossible to go to space. It's ridiculous that we do that. And to see all of those people come together to make that possible, especially in a time of, firstly, great division around, not just in America, in the UK, all around the world, people really struggling to like argue constructively. And then I saw this group of people with mission obsessed, speaking candidly to each other to overcome their problems, but doing so in a kind of harmonious and amazing way in which the hierarchy shifts depending on whose expertise is needed at a certain time. Well, I think what I learned, the thing that resonated with me most was how what we can all learn from the way they all work together as a team, and how lucky I was to get to tell such a positive story when so much is so depressing and demoralizing out there. It was so amazing to see, as I'm locked in my house in London because of COVID, to watch people I've come to know and love launch into space. Like, amazing. What an amazing thing to be a part of.
Sorry, I was muted. Sorry. What I loved about this was there's so much tension that's in this series. We have the whole where anything can go wrong at any moment. You show like the testing and how a simple move can throw off a whole mission. We have the spacewalk situation as well. What I was wondering was that something that you specifically wanted to highlight the dangers of space, or did that just happen to come in because we're dealing with an environment that you cannot control?
It's a great question. Drama is conflict.
Mhm.
So to make a dramatic story, you need to find that somewhere. I was excited by the prospect that the conflict is humans versus nature
Mhm.
and overcoming, rather than people versus people. That's one way of making it elevated. I didn't, and I like to tell this story authentically. You just have to wait for it to come to you. You can't force it. I
Right.
mean, they wouldn't let me anyway. They've got better things to do than wait for me to tell them to ask them to start, throwing spanners in the works. But there are, there's one path to success, and almost infinite ways that that a mission can fail.
Right.
And we sort of knew going into it that, every day, every week, there's someone in one of those buildings who's like, oh my God, if I don't get this done by Wednesday, we're screwed, a lot of us. And so we were like, if we can be around it enough and meet the people and understand what those pinch points are and gain their trust so they're happy to have us watch them in these moments of duress, then we'll have an amazing show. So half. We went to a place where we knew there were amazing stories, but we didn't know what we were actually going to find when we got there.
Right. Now, I was wondering, because you're dealing with natures and plans change, was there an original path that kind of changed the documentary and how it was originally supposed to go?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, initially we thought we were just going to be with Chris while he fixed the AMS. I won't give any spoilers, but that soon, the plan soon changed on that. Whenever I'm pitching a documentary, we run down the plan. We often, and for this one, we wrote down a six episode structure to explain what we want to do, and then at the end, I always say, "This is the worst case scenario. This is what I think is going to happen now, but I'm pretty sure and very hopeful that it's going to be way cooler and way more interesting than I can imagine." You know.
Right. Now, because you're, as a documentarian, your job is basically to observe. Was there any moment where you really wanted to like voice an opinion or be like, oh, we should follow this instead, that you wasn't able to, because that's just not the job of a documentarian? Yeah,
good question. I mean, no one, they're all very lovely, but their discussions they're having are way above like my are way above my, so I didn't have anything to chip in on that front. But you're always to an extent triangulating what story you're following, and as the story shifts, you need to make sure that you've got the right things to set up that moment. So, you know, when if the astronauts change or if something happened, then me and my team we're looking at what do we have to build that in there, and how can we react to it? Because to make the story authentic, you need to, as you say, you need to follow the action. Right. You don't set the pace. So that's partly why you end up filming so much and not using so much, and it's very unpredictable what you will or won't need. But it's a joyful process for me.
Right. And I was also wondering, in terms of documentaries, when do you know the story has kind of concluded and that everything is wrapped up? Because there could always be something else you could follow. So with Among the Stars, how did you know this is done?
Well, because Chris was the backbone, so we sort of felt, and it became apparent that it was probably going to be his last mission. There's actually, one of the many things I learned was there's a safe limit to how much time humans should really spend in space, right, because of the radiation and all that kind of thing. And so astronauts kind of know when they're coming toward, I mean, you try and stay significantly under that, because the consequences are pretty awful if you don't. So he sort of knew that that was going to be a cycle. How and when his astronaut career was going to end and in what manner was kind of the story. But we felt that felt like the natural sort of conclusion for us. But you're right, it does change as you go along. And Disney were wonderful in how open they were to letting us follow that path. They're very demanding, but their demand is make this amazing. And if you're making it amazing, which they believed we were, then they'll really back you to the hilt. And that's very gratifying, because a process like this needs to be patient, and you let it come to you.
Thank you so much for speaking with me. I truly enjoyed this docu-series.
Oh, thank you, Dan. That's really kind.
No problem. You too.
Nice cat, by the way.
Oh, thank you.